Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. This has been quite the eventful week for Forsaken. Of course, Forsaken is only about a month away and naturally the news is going to be ramping up quite a bit. In this video, we're going to be touching on all of the news that came last week. We got a preview of some pretty incredible new exotics. We learned more about the new mod system. We learned how milestones and challenges are going to be changing. We learned a lot more about the Masterwork system and some changes that we can expect in the tower. There's a lot to go over, so let's get into it. Alright, so jumping right into it, we have this amazing new trailer, which shows off a lot of the new exotics coming with the update. This is not even close to all of them. We know that there are 15 new exotic weapons. They could also include returning exotics, so keep that in mind, but there still is plenty more to come, and that's not to mention the exotic armor. I think this is a pretty good sampling to show that there's going to be some pretty incredible options. Hopefully this is not just the best of the best. Hopefully there's some incredible nuggets that they have yet to reveal, and of course you can be rest assured that there will most likely be more exotic quests similar to Whisper of the Worm. I think that was very specifically given to us now to give us a sneak peek as to what is yet to come. Now, we're not going to go over every single one of these exotics, but there's a couple that I wanted to point out. First off and foremost, Chromatic Fire chest piece for the Warlock. What the even heck? This thing is insane. It gives every single one of your kinetic weapons essentially Dragonfly. It causes an elemental explosion upon precision kills for every single one of your kinetic weapons. I guess they had to find some way to get Warlocks off of those Lunafaction boots. But moving on, we have a double dodge exotic for the Hunter. This thing looks pretty cool. It gives you a second dodge. I assume it's going to be a second dodge charge. And hopefully it has something even better up its sleeve, like maybe increased charge rate for those dodges, so you can just be dodging all over the place like a madman or madwoman. But then for the Titan, we have a pair of exotic boots that grant you the ability to reflect projectiles back at the target for sliding into them. That's a pretty high risk reward factor. There's going to be a lot of learning curve with that one, I'm sure, but it should be pretty amazing. And of course, your enemies will definitely not see that one coming, as Lord Shaxx tells us in the trailer. Now, as far as weapons go, we have the Malfeasance, which is what everyone thought would be the new version of the Thorn. It works very differently, so it's definitely not the Thorn. Essentially, 5 hits detonate an explosion, which seems pretty cool. We don't know exactly how this is going to work, but the explosion looks pretty big. So this thing will definitely be quite the beast. We also got a good look at the Ace of Spades in all of its glory, returning back with its amazing reload animation. We got the 1000 Voices, which looks to be a brand new trace rifle. It looks to leave behind a trail of solar energy that detonates a moment later. Definitely insane. And then we have what I think was one of the coolest moments in that trailer, and that is when they used the Wish Ender, the new exotic bow that we have yet to see. And this one grants you the ability to see through walls and pierce multiple targets. We saw him looking through a wall, and while the weapon is drawn back, you sort of hear your character's heartbeat and hear him breathe in. I was thinking one of my favorite loadouts might become a kinetic shotgun and energy bow, and then a rocket launcher or something else in the power weapon, but to have an energy bow at all times. And this one might be the one I go after. It's going to be really hard to separate myself from it, especially if it does a lot of damage. Anyways, if you haven't seen the trailer, definitely check it out. I'll leave a link down below. There's a lot of really cool other exotics that I haven't gone over. Of course, we're going to be reviewing these as they come out with Forsaken, but for now you can get a glimpse down below. But anyways, let's move on to the other big piece of news, which is we have an announcement date for the next reveal stream coming August 7th at 10 AM Pacific. Of course, that's going to be over on twitch.tv/Bungie. There we can expect to learn a lot more about combat. That includes a full briefing on how weapon slots and mods are going to behave, and how weapon slots work, how ammo economy works, and of course the big news, how the reduced time to kill in the Crucible is going to affect your gameplay experience. A lot of really cool stuff. You're definitely going to want to tune in then, or of course you can wait for my breakdown later on in the day. Moving on from that, they wanted to spotlight the Destiny 2 development roadmap. We have a brand new version as of July 25th. The good news is that they show a 2.0 update and then a 2.0.0.1 update. And essentially, if you've been around, especially during the Taken King expansion, you knew that the major big meat of the expansion came out a week before. That gives you enough time to preload it onto your console, and then simply on day one on September 4th, they flip the switch, all of the content becomes available. Now, the cool thing about 2.0 landing a week earlier than it was supposed to is that we get a few things that they really can't hold off on, including the weapon slot changes. That is a deep core feature change, and they can't really flip the switch on that one, so that's going to be deployed on August 28th along with the 2.0 update. Of course, this is a system-wide change. It does not require the ownership of Forsaken, but this is going to be something that you can check out, get accustomed to, and maybe even work on some of those loadouts. Test out the Hawthorne's Fuel Forge shotgun in your kinetic slot. Yep, that's happening. But also, you'll have plenty of time to get rid of all of those shaders that you've been stacking up. Bulk shader deletion comes on the 28th as well. In addition to the new director, we're going to see how the new layout looks like. There's a lot of updates with milestones and challenges, which we'll go over in just a minute. And that's all going to be reflected on the 28th. Now, moving on from that, we learned a lot more about how milestones and challenges are going to work in Forsaken. So they're changing things up quite a bit here. First up, we have milestones. What they're doing is they're taking the pursuit for power out of the milestones, renaming those into their own category called challenges, and those are going to rotate every 4 days. So it's not going to be a weekly lockout. So essentially, the flashpoint is going to last for 4 days. You can get your powerful engram, and then on the 5th day, you can do it again, another 4 days, etc., etc. So these are going to be 4-day lockouts for the pursuits for power, which I think is going to be really nice, especially considering that we have to get to level 50 and max power is now 600, which was confirmed by Steve Cotton in this update. Now you might be asking, there's already something called challenges. Well, they're getting rid of that, and they're taking everything from challenges and they're putting it into the new bounties. So your bounties are essentially going to be how you gain extra reputation, extra experience, all of that good stuff. And then challenges will be the, do 3 heroic strikes, do your call to arms, do the flashpoint, do the nightfall. Those are going to be called challenges. Now we get to what is new with milestones. So milestones are going to be on their own, and they're not going to be a pursuit for power, but they're going to be a pursuit for other things, for very specific items. So they're going to include your world quests, they're going to include your campaigns, they're going to include you getting your new subclass path. That's all going to be in the new milestones tab, which I think is very smart. In the end game, when you've reached max power, you don't really need to do the current milestones. There's no reason to actually complete them, and they're kind of repetitive because you do the same activities over and over. At max power in the true endgame, what we want to go after is things like getting the Sleeper Simulant. And so pursuits like that is going to be what makes up the new milestones tab. So when you log onto your game, when you have the overlay for milestones, it's going to show you what things specifically you want to go after, not necessarily the boring part of just increasing your power. Now, the next major thing that we learned a lot more about is in reference to how mods are going to work. So first off, when year 2 happens, your current mods are going to be completely obsolete, because they're changing entirely how the mod system is going to work. The mods will be completely different. So the first thing you're going to be able to do is to take all of your current mods over to Banshee and turn them in for some kind of currency that's going to help you get the new mods. The new mods are going to be very special, and they're going to be a lot harder to get than the current mods. The first interesting thing to note is that we no longer will have rare mods. We're only going to have legendary. On top of that, the legendary mods will no longer be granting the +5 power that they currently do. I personally think it's kind of useless, and I'm thankful that they're getting rid of it. Now, as far as what these mods are going to be, essentially their goal is going to be to make mods that you can notice right away and are not meant to be sort of as disposable as they currently are. A couple of the examples included a mod that lets you have better in-air accuracy. The next mod makes your tracker come back a little bit faster when you're coming out of your zoom. So these are going to really behave like secondary perks on your guns. This is going to be pretty cool. There's also going to be some raid specific mods that you can attain that will of course help you out in one way or another during the raids. The best way I heard these described was that they act like icing on the cake for your weapon. So this definitely sounds like something I can get behind. I'm very anxious to see what they're doing for armor mods. I'm definitely ready to learn more about that. Hopefully we'll learn more during the stream. But one question this leaves me with is, well, what does it mean for your new weapons and determining their element? Will it be part of the randomized rolls? Will it be another way of changing the element? And what does that mean for year 1 weapons? Will they be able to use year 2 mods? Will they be locked into their elements the day of the 28th? How is that going to work? What do you think it's going to be? Let me know down below. Moving on, let's talk about some things we learned during an interview with Scott Taylor and Steve Cotton that Game Informer published last week. We're going to spitfire through some of the highlights, so let's get into it. So first up, Infusion is going to be working a little bit differently. It looks like it's going to be reverting to the way it was in Destiny 1, where you don't have to have the specific weapon type to infuse into it. That might still work, they weren't super clear on that, but now you can infuse an item from anything else within that same slot. So if you have a hand cannon in an energy slot, you can put it into an energy scout rifle, things like that. Now, the other interesting things is we might actually have a reason to get excited about duplicates finally, and that is because duplicates are going to be the cheapest way to infuse the same weapon forward. Depending on what you put into each piece of gear, it's going to cost less or more, and the cheapest version of that is going to be with the same exact weapon. Next up, we learned a little bit more about the Masterwork leveling system that is coming in Forsaken. It looks like Masterworks are going to be working a little bit more differently in the sense that you have to upgrade them up to 10 different levels. Once you reach that 10th level on that piece of gear, it'll become a Masterwork. So this might be implying that Masterwork cores are a thing of the past, and you actually have to invest time into that piece of gear to make it into a Masterwork. I'm a very big fan of this. This is how it was in Destiny 1, and you're going to have to actually put time into a piece of gear for it to reach its maximum potential. It's still going to drop with a random stat boost, but it looks like you're going to be able to upgrade that over the course of 10 levels on that item. The other reason I don't think Masterwork cores are going to be a thing in Forsaken is the fact that you're no longer going to be able to re-roll the stat boost. If you don't like the stat boost or the perks that you're getting on that piece of gear, you're going to have to essentially dismantle it and hope for a better one next time. And that brings us to armor perks. We learned a little bit more about what exactly the armor perks are going to be. First up, we're going to have one that will roll into boosting your abilities in some way, and then the other will roll into something with your ammo economy. A good example that they gave us was in reference to scout rifle ammo and grenade throw distance on, let's say, a warlock. Now, we have already seen an example of what some of these armor perks are going to be like. In the Forsaken reveal, we caught a glimpse at a Warlock Bond that had a couple perks that had a bit of a give and take. So first up, while in the Dreaming City, you do more damage, and while in the Dreaming City, you take more damage. So I think that the armor perks that they talked about during this interview are going to be a thing, but then perhaps your class item is going to be that outlier that works a little bit differently, giving you something like this give and take type perk. But of course, we're going to be learning a lot more about armor perks during the next reveal stream. Now, moving on, we have some confirmation as to which of the vendors are getting Gear 2 refreshes in their inventory. It looks like Lord Shaxx, Commander Zavala, and the Gunsmith are in fact getting refreshes to their inventory, and this was told to us by way of learning that we can use Year 1 tokens and I suppose Gunsmith materials to continue to get Year 2 weapons. While this is very cool, I'm a little sad that the destination vendors weren't brought up in the conversation. It sounds like they're not going to be getting any Year 2 weapons or armor. I'm kind of sad about this. Hopefully it's not the case, but I was really hoping that they would do that just to give those destinations a little bit more relevancy after Forsaken drops. But of course, only time will tell. Hopefully they'll be diving into that more during the stream. Now, in relation to the tower, they talked about how the Vanguard might be changing with Forsaken. Of course, the natural question is, will we have a different Hunter Vanguard after Cayde is, taken to that farm up north? The question is, while he's playing with farm animals, what are we going to be doing in the tower to get things like our Flashpoint completed? Honestly, their answer was a little interesting. We might be getting a new Hunter Vanguard. It might be part of the Forsaken story to learn who that is. Maybe it's Eris Morn. She is a hunter after all. But either way, the tower will be transformed, so it looks like you'll have a separate instance from anyone who doesn't have Forsaken, which is, I guess, okay. They don't really have too many other options there. But anyways, who do you think it'll be? Let me know in the comments below. A lot of people are thinking that it should be Ana Bray, but she is the Mars destination vendor, and I don't think they'll be changing that anytime soon. Is it maybe Shiro, or do you think it'll be a completely new character? Let me know down below. Moving on, Steve Cotton did say that there will be strike-specific loot. We don't know whether or not that pertains to the Nightfall exclusive loot that we already have. The good news is that it will continue forward. I'm hoping for some new gear, although I do have to say I hope they change up the system a little bit. I've probably run the Tree of Probabilities close to 200 times so far with no DFA. That's kind of frustrating and not really what I hope exclusives would be like, so hopefully they'll be touching on that system a little bit more before Forsaken comes out. But anyways, that brings us to the end of the major updates that we got last week. Of course, there's a lot more to go over. If you want all the fine details, head on over to Game Informer's Forsaken Hub, and of course, head on over to Bungie.net. Anyways, let me know in the comments below which of the new exotics that we got a preview of are you most excited about. Is Chromatic Fire just super stupid OP? Let's discuss. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.